I'm Erin from Camus Designs. We're a floral studio here on San Juan Island. We focus mainly on weddings and events. And today we're at Pelindaba Lavender Farm here on San Juan Island. And we actually like to use the lavender both this time of year in the wedding season as a fresh product and also throughout the year as a dried product. So if you're close to a Pelindaba store and you're unable to visit the farm here, you can always pick up dried product, and it's beautiful in arrangements. Today we're going to be working on a centerpiece, hopefully taking some of the fear away from floral design. We chose flowers that are in season and local. We're really proponents of the slow flower movement and trying to source your flowers from as close as you can to where you live. So a lot of these flowers you might grow in your yard. If not, you could probably pick them up at a local floral shop or grocery store or things like that. So because we're focused today on a centerpiece, I purposely made the center of the arrangement low and then gave some more height and width as we came out. When you're creating a centerpiece, you want to have it accent your table, but not dominate the conversation or prohibit the conversation. So you want to be able to have enough air in the arrangement and lowness that you can actually see people across the table and it doesn't inhibit conversation. So we did this low, and then we added some real, I call them dancers, above the arrangement that gives some height but doesn't give a lot of barrier to conversation. And then we went wider on the sides to give some movement again, and if you have a long table or a round table, this shape works really nicely. So with that, we're going to set up for our centerpiece, and your final product will look something similar to this. So we're going to start with, I brought this stone compote vase. I like these because they have a little bit of a foot to them, so it raises the flowers up, but not too much that it inhibits conversation. So we're going to start with this. There's a number of different kinds of mechanics that you can use. A lot of times what I'll do is put some chicken wire inside the vase. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be using one of the Holly Chapel pillows. You can get these through syndicate sales, both retail and wholesale. So it makes it easy. I'm not going to tape it down to show you. I'm just going to put it on top of the vase. It just sits on top, and that's going to make things a little bit easier for your design. So I'm going to start with this raspberry foliage. I like it as a starting point because it has really hardy leaves and can really kind of define your shape. And I like to use flowers and foliage that have bends to them and don't fight that. So kind of let the foliage do what it's going to do naturally. I'm going to cut it down quite significantly, and I'm going to place that through the pillow. And you're going to have it's going to tip until you get some balancing through your foliage. That's okay. We're going to pick another branch of raspberry, and I'm going to take some of the leaves off of this. And what I'm doing by taking the leaves off is you never want to have any leaves below the water line of an arrangement. It can introduce bacteria, and your arrangement won't last as long. And I'm going to add at least one more raspberry, mainly from a shape perspective. And I like to have a curve down and then a curve up. So it focuses your eye on that more central portion. You might have noticed that we're designing today on a very fancy bucket. And I've topped that bucket with a Lazy Susan. It's really helpful to be able to turn this Lazy Susan and see what things are looking like from all angles, because a lot of times it's easy to get focused on one spot, and we want to make sure that the whole arrangement is beautiful. The next foliage we're going to move to is Dusty Miller. I really like combining it with lavender as well, whether that lavender's dried or fresh, because it has a really pretty silvery color to it, and it accents the lavender really nicely. Again, I'm removing the leaves that could be below the water line, and then when you get things that are cut like this or broken, you would definitely want to cut that off, because just as you would think of in a painting, your eye is going to stop there, and that's not what you want your eye to focus on. And I'm going to keep adding foliage, again, to define that shape. And The next thing I'm going to add is some of this thornless blackberry. This is a beautiful plant, and I love the interest that it adds to a centerpiece. Oftentimes when we design for weddings, I think you might be getting people sitting around a table that don't really know each other. So it's kind of fun to be able to create something and be able to have people say, did you see that there's blackberries in that centerpiece? I think that's fun. So I'm going to stop here. I feel like we have a nice shape of our arrangement. So I'm going to start focusing on the middle, and I'm going to add things quite low. And you'll notice on some of these center flowers, I'm going to cut the stem quite short because I really want to bring people's eye into the center and really draw them in. So it's nice to add the flowers and be able to have them at different heights and different dimensions within the arrangement. Part of this is you don't want your mechanic showing, that pillow that we started with. I'm going to add some of the garden roses that we brought. You'll see with a garden rose, this is from, again, our camas cutting garden. So they're not the 2-foot long stem that's rigid that you might see in the grocery store. And so we're going to embrace that versus fighting it. So we're going to put that in a place where it can do whatever it wants to do. The heads are quite heavy, so you're going to want to make sure that you add them to your mechanic to a point that they feel like they're stable and supported. And this mechanic's really nice in the fact that if you don't like where something is, you can take it out and move it, and it's quite forgiving. So as you'll see, we haven't added any of the lavender yet or the textural elements. And what I like to do is start with the foliage and get our shape, and then add the focal flowers, and then add some whimsy to it. So what we're going to add next are some of these more dancer pieces. One of the things that I really like to remind people when they're using lavender is it's a lot more pleasing to the eye to have a staggered bunch of lavender than if they were all really even. And they add just a little pop of color to this arrangement that we've kept really quite neutral. And again, I'm going to stagger my lavender so it's not all in a row, and then add a little clump at a time. And by adding a little clump at a time, you're just really being able to focus on that lavender more than if it was just a single stem. And you're going to see as you start arranging that flowers are going to last at different times. These garden roses may only last a few days. The lavender is going to last a long time. So you want to just kind of pick things out and add things back in and have fun with it. And then some of it can be really pretty, kind of draping over the vase. So when you're arranging at home, don't think that you just have to kind of come into an arrangement from the top. You can really try to add things that come out in front like that, and really add some interest that way. This is obviously a grass, but again, I like it as a kind of a dancer. I like the leaves of it almost as much as the grass portion and what that can bring to an arrangement. So when I'm using things like that, I might just drape the grass down so that you can see the leaves as well as the grass. I'm going to carry this line of this original raspberry that we put in that's kind of has a nice bend downward. I'm going to follow that and add a little bit of grass to carry your eye that way as well. And then I might actually do the same over here. So that brings a width to the arrangement. And you really want to make sure when you're designing too that you are looking at it from all different levels. You're going to be sitting at a table, you're not going to be standing up like I am. So really like lean over and look at your flower arrangement as you would if you were sitting at a dining room table. So I love this side, the way that this rose kind of cascades down. On the other side, I feel like it needs a little something that kind of comes down. So I might use a little bit of this allium and go with the fact that it's a little cascading flower anyway. So we went from a kind of a bulk of raspberry foliage, and then we added that allium, and it just kind of really cascades and softens the vase. So at this, I could foots all day. I'm going to call this done, and we're ready to have our dinner party with our centerpiece of whites and yellows and lime green, and highlighted with the beautiful lavender that we're lucky enough to pick this morning from the Pelindaba Lavender farm.